So today we'll talk about delivering real-time visualization for mineral drilling projects. So we get the chance to do that with Janina and Sequent. So it's fairly new technology. It's based on the IDMEX HubIQ link to the central platform at Sequent. So this is new technology that has been released late in 2018. So we're pretty excited to show that to you this morning. So the objective of the talk, try to set things up a bit, is just to if you are a geologist, geophysicist, geochemist, or even analyst working in the industry, there's more and more pressure to instantly act on new information and data that we have. And there's an expectation that this increasing amount of data is easily available. Now, we all know that's not the case. The reality is that our industry still has to catch up with that. So what we're thinking is that we want to answer a question: what the innovations can deliver to address the need for real-time decision making. So today we'll talk about how we are going to put together our two technologies so that we can lead toward that real-time decision making. So here are the two visions for our two companies. So at IDMEX, we're all about real-time subsurface solutions. So we're all about collecting data at the drill site or near to the drill site, collecting it, making analysis for it, and then to safely upload that to the cloud, so that it can be QC'd and ready to go. On the other side, Sequent is all about making use of that raw data and making use of interpretation to produce 3D models that are coming from complex data and that can convey the reality of your subsurface problems or subsurface problems. So they want to do this and create a 3D model that is as less involved as possible with uncertainty and ambiguity. So what happens when we have a drilling project is that all the data is coming from the drill rig. It's the real point of entry of data. The amount of data that is created there is quite large, and we have the potential to instantly act on that. So and when that happens, when we are in the process of acting on our drilling campaign in real time, then we can affect the costs and the time, and eventually lead to more accurate geologic and resource models. So what we want is we want to be able to look at our drilling campaign and being able to optimize that as much as we can. Now, we've all been under the rain, waiting at a drill rig with a piece of paper to get the survey data and then to give that to our people to add that in our database. That's still the way we kind of process our information. We want to break that cycle. We want to come up with something that will allow us to act more quickly on data and also to be able to do better QC of our process. I'll let Janina continue.
Thanks, Jerry. All right. Yeah, so that's exactly it. So I'm just going to bring this a little closer because I'm short. So there we go. Yeah. So what I'd like to talk about now is a little bit about the history of our two companies and the partnership that has evolved over the last couple of years. And yeah, and just to give you an idea, so in 2012, we've already partnered up because we realized that both of our companies have a really similar outlook to what the industry needs are, and we have a pretty good synergy actually between our companies, which is great. Yeah, and so in 2012, we initially came up with the IOGAS Live Link, and just in case you haven't heard about this one, now IOGAS is a product that's created by IDMEX, and it's a geochemical analytical software program, and that operates in the 2D realm, okay, as usually geochemical analysis is processed. Now, the idea that we came up with, it would be amazing if we could have a look at that 2D geochemical information directly in the context of your 3D models. So we can introduce it right away into Leapfrog, specifically Geo, and be able to see it in a 3D context. So we really felt that was the step in the right direction and that we should elaborate on that idea. And then in parallel, we started to come up with other solutions addressing similar issues in the industry, both in terms of 3D visualization as well as the consumption of large amounts of data. Now, when it comes to Sequent, we ended up developing a product called Central. And just in case you haven't heard about it, it's still pretty new on the market, but it addresses one particular issue that we're all facing, and that is a big challenge for all of us. We create models, and we have a large amount of data that goes into them on a day-to-day basis, and we have a whole team of people working on them. But how do we actually store that information, and how do we communicate amongst our team members what changes have occurred, where the latest version is sitting, et cetera, et cetera? How do we create security around the idea of our audit trail? And this is where Central comes into place. It is a model management solution that helps you visualize, track, and manage your geological models from a centralized and auditable environment. So you have a continuous history of all of the data that goes into your models, to communication around it, and you're able to access it at any given time, allowing you to be completely auditable. Okay? So it's quite an interesting product. More than happy to talk about it later on. Come find me. I'm around. Now,
Yeah.
the IDMEX Hub.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so on the index side, we have another product called the IDMEX Hub IQ. So all of our tools, or a significant portion of our tools, that can collect either survey structural data, geophysical logs, or geochemical data, can communicate to the hub in almost real time. So when you have your tool, when you do your measurements, you retrieve everything from the borehole, you can sync the data that's on the different tools directly to the hub. Now, when that happens, you also have a QC environment in the hub that allows you to be able to validate or reject data as it come along. So the idea here is to be able to connect what's happening at the drill rig directly in the cloud, so that geos elsewhere can access that data. They're also prompted with emails and things like that. So the idea is to provide a real-time communication between the rig and the geos ready for that. So that's it. So the idea is to have those two things communicate, right?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, and of course, it just made sense to us to create, along those lines, another live link to combine those two technologies with each other. And the principal idea is, as Gervais already pointed towards, is that instead of having this entire, forward, this is the pointer, there we go. Instead of having, or in addition to having this entire workflow that leads from the drill rig and the actual downloading of information from the tool itself, the QA/QC, the upload of data, the emailing, and then eventually the arrival at the database, to have a shortcut basically in place that allows you to visualize that 2D information directly in a 3D environment and see it in the context of your 3D model. Now, how does that actually work? What does the workflow look like? So basically, you start in the IDMEX Hub, or IDMEX Hub IQ, and within there, you create a project. You introduce all of your information from the drill rig, you download all of your data right away in near real time, and then you create a little integration key. That little code is then being placed into our central server environment, and instantly, based on that connection, both of the systems can talk to each other. And because the information directly arrives in the central environment, it also arrives at a platform where you can instantly talk about it. Not just look at it, but actually collaborate on it right away. Now, what does it look like? Just to give you a little visual. Now, when the data arrives in Central, you have a little, yet again, the central integration interface here that allows you to see, for example, your planned drill holes, and then see them in the relative context of your ongoing drilling. So it's a little hard to see on those images, but basically you have your original drill trace, and then you have a live drill trace developing right next to it in real time, being consistently refreshed, that shows you how your drill course actually, or how your hole is deviating from that planned hole. So in case you do see a major deviation happening, you can really literally visualize it, you're instantly able to act on it. All right, you can double check if some of the data might have just been entered incorrectly, for example, for whatever reason, or if there's an error in terms of data. But you can also see if there is a major issue in terms of direction, and you can pull the plug, basically. The idea is also to optimize the visualization by providing a couple of tools here. So for example, in this particular image, we see along the drill trace here, we've got individual survey points being visualized by cones that you can differentiate in terms of depth, dip, and azimuth. So you get a good idea whether your data points are pointing in the right direction, basically. And you can do the same thing with structural data that is collected with the IQ logger. So when it comes to structural information, it's visualized in terms of disks, again in form of dip, depth, and azimuth, if you wish. And there you can see right away whether you entered some area of critical offset, for example, that you either expected or not. And again, you'll be able to act on that information directly, particularly when you're chasing, for example, a shear zone that might host your mineralization, rather important information. Now, there is also the potential in the future. Now, this is already available to you. Survey data and structural data can already be visualized and downloaded. But in the future, we might be able to also introduce geophysical information and geochemical information being derived directly from the drill rig and the lab at the rig. So that refers to gamma information, for example, or PXRF information, etc. And that would be also an amazing thing to visualize, just having your pathfinder elements, for example, directly shown in your 3D model or relative to your 3D model, identifying whether you're still on track to chase your alteration zone of interest or your mineralization, or whether you hit something that's completely new and it was not part of your model. And you may have to interrogate whether your interpretation is correct and if you can expand your target. So why does it matter? I think it's pretty clear, but I'm just going to reiterate. Obviously, being able to see all of this information in near real time relative to your 3D model allows you to test and validate your model right away. And because of that, makes a more confident and accurate decisions that overall really increase the productivity and reduce the risk for your operation. Of course, overall reduce the amount of time you spend on drilling and, of course, the costs associated with it. Now, regarding the future, well, as you can hear already, it's like the future is bright, and we're excited to partner up more because, as I said, the synergy is amazing. We really think in the same directions. Just to give you an idea, so at the moment, the survey and structural data is already available to you now, and if you have an interest to see what it looks like, please come and find us later on. We'll be happy to give you a more in-depth demonstration or come and sign up for a meeting. Maybe at Roundup at our booth, 1025, I believe it is. And yeah, and then in the future, geophysical and geochemical data might become available too, depending on your interest, of course, and because you're the one that shapes this technology ultimately. So just let us know. Yeah, so the door is wide open to much more live 3D data to be visualized in the future, of raw information coming from basically the point of entry. So this is where IDMEX comes into play, and then being pushed into the 3D environment. So the future is bright. Just let us know how you'd like to shape it.